welcome back to my channel. This is Justbebeautifulbre, and I actually have some cool ideas that I want to share with you guys that I want to do today. So, I thought about doing something for the children, and I don't know why I thought of this. Maybe it's because I have all of these Disney books, but we're going to read them today. I'm not going to read you all these. I'm going to read 2 of these. I believe I want to read Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs and The Lion King. I've seen that fits pretty well for the past couple months with The Lion King coming out and all that. So yeah, don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's get started. Okay guys, so I'm going to start with Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. Ready? There's bashful, sneezy, doc, grumpy, happy, dopey, and sleepy. All the 7 dwarfs. Yes, yes, yes. I feel like I'm in like crisscross applesauce reading center right now. Okay. One snowy night in a castle far away, a little princess was born. Her parents named her Snow White. As the years passed, the child grew up to be a lovely young woman. Her beauty and her gentle nature won the hearts of all who knew her. After Snow White's father died, she lived in the castle with her stepmother, the Queen. The Queen was very beautiful, but she was cold and heartless. She was also jealous of Snow White's beauty. So she dressed the princess in rags and forced her to work as a maid. The Queen's most prized possession was a magic mirror. Every day she would stand in front of the mirror and ask, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?" And every day the mirror would reply, "You, O Queen, are the fairest of the land." While the Queen spent her time admiring herself in the mirror, Snow White worked long hours in the castle. She also did her chores with a smile, often singing while she worked. One day, she drew water from the well. She sang a song about her fondest dream. She wished a handsome prince would come to the castle and carry her away. "Please make my wish come true," whispered Snow White. No sooner had she said these words, a handsome prince appeared next to her. Snow White gazed shyly into the prince's eyes. The prince fell in love instantly, but Snow White suddenly became frightened and led it to the safety of the castle. That evening, as usual, the Queen asked the mirror, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all?" But this time her mirror replied, her lips blood red, her hair like night, her skin like snow, her name Snow White. The Queen was so furious that she immediately called for her huntsman. "Tomorrow, take Snow White deep into the forest and kill her," she commanded. Then she gave the huntsman a jewelry box and told him to bring her proof that she had obeyed the order. The huntsman feared the evil Queen and promised to do as she wished. Ooh. It's getting a little intense, guys. The next morning, the huntsman took Snow White deep into the forest. He walked as the princess stopped to place a baby bird back into the nest. At that moment, the huntsman knew he could never harm this kind-hearted girl. He fell to his knees and begged her for forgiveness. "My dear princess," he said, "you're not safe. The Queen is jealous. She has ordered me to kill you, but I could never hurt you. Quickly," he added, "run into the forest and never return." Snow White was frightened by these words, but did as she was told. She ran and ran until she could run no more. Lost and alone, she sank to the ground and sobbed herself to sleep. The huntsman placed an animal's heart inside the box the queen had given him and presented. To her that night, the evil woman rejoiced, for the believed huntsman had carried out her order. "Now I am the fairest one of all," she exclaimed triumphantly. When she woke the next morning, Snow White found herself surrounded by forest animals. Curious birds, rabbits, squirrels, chipmunks, and even a mother deer and her fawn crept up to a closer look. Snow White laughed. She didn't feel lonely any longer. "Do you know of a place where I can stay?" Snow White asked her woodland friends. In response, two little birds chirped excitedly and began to tug gently on her cape. Snow White followed her new friends to a tiny cottage nestled among the trees. "Oh, it's just like a dollhouse!" Snow White exclaimed. Since no one seemed to be home, Snow White stepped in. "Oh my, what a terrible mess," she said. She stared in wonder at the 7 little chairs. "7 children must live here," she said. "I'll just tidy up a bit and surprise them. Perhaps they'll let me stay for a while." Snow White began to clean the cottage. The animals helped her sweep and dust and wash and scrub. Soon the cottage was neat and tidy. Snow White went upstairs, where she found 7 little beds lined up in a row. Each one had a name carved on it. "What's funny names for children?" remarked Snow White as she read the names out loud. "Happy, Dopey, Grumpy, Sneezy, Bashful, Doc, and Sleepy." Then she yawned. "I'm a little sleepy myself," she added. Now Snow White lay across the tiny bed and promptly fell asleep. Meanwhile, 7 little men were hurrying home to find a hard day's work in a diamond mine. They didn't know it, but they had a surprise waiting for them, for these were the 7 dwarfs who lived in the cottage where Snow White lay sleeping. They sang merrily as they walked through the forest. Doc led the way with the lantern. Behind him was Grumpy, Happy, Sleepy, Sneezy, Bashful, and last of all, Dopey. As they neared the house, the dwarves noticed that something was different. The windows were clean. Cautiously, they crept inside. Everything was neat and tidy. "Just as I thought," cried Doc. "Someone's been here." Maybe it's a goblin," said Bashful. "And, maybe it's still here." "Only one way to find out," said Grumpy. So upstairs they went. But instead of a goblin, the dwarfs found Snow White fast asleep on their beds. "It's a girl," declaimed Doc. "She's beautiful," said Happy. Snow White was awakened by their voices. "Oh?" she cried when she saw them. "Why, you're not children at all. You're little men." "That's right," said Doc. "But who are you?" Snow White introduced herself and told them all about the wicked queen. "You can stay with us," said Doc. "We won't let anything happen to you." All the other dwarfs agreed. Back at the castle, the queen once again consulted her magic mirror. "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest one of all?" she asked. She was sure she knew the answer. But the mirror replied, over the 7 jeweled hills beyond the 7th fall, in the cottage of 7 dwarfs, dwells Snow White, fairest one of all." The queen was outraged. The huntsman lied. She shouted, knocking the jeweled box to the ground. "Now I will have to take care of myself." The queen ran down the stairs to a dark dungeon, where she crept an assortment of enchanted powders and bubbly liquids. She quickly mixed herself a magic potion. When she drank the potion, she instantly turned into an ugly old woman. Then she cast a magic spell over a luscious red apple. One bite of this poison apple, Snow White will fall asleep forever. She crackled with glee. That night, at the little cottage, Snow White cooked a special meal for the dwarfs. "Supper's almost ready," she said. "You'll just have time to wash." "Wash?" chorused the dwarfs. They had almost forgotten what that word meant. But Snow White was firm, so they all went outside to scrub themselves clean. Even Grumpy got a soaking. After dinner, it was time for fun. The dwarfs played their musical instruments and took turns dancing with Snow White. Dopey climbed on Sneezy's shoulders and cut a long coat. Now he was as tall as Snow White, but not for long. One sneeze from Sneezy sent them both tumbling to the floor. Before they set off for work the next morning, Snow White gave each dwarf a goodbye kiss. "Beware of strangers," warned Doc. "No telling what that wicked queen might do." "Don't worry," replied Snow White. "I'll be careful." After the dwarfs left, Snow White began making... Sorry about that, guys. I'm back. Now, after the dwarfs left, Snow White began making pies. "All alone, my pet?" she heard someone ask. Snow White turned and saw an old woman in the window. "How would you like a taste of one of my nice apples?" "They're wishing apples, you know," the old woman said. They do look good," replied Snow White. Oh, sorry. The animals recognized the queen out. Okay, guys, sorry about the glitch up, but let's continue. This is where I last left off. The animals hurried to the mine. They tugged at the dwarf's clothes until the little man understood that something was terribly wrong. The dwarfs jumped onto the deer and headed for the cottage. On their way, they spotted the old woman and recognized the queen in her disguise. "Follow her!" Grumpy shouted, so they chased her all the way up a steep cliff. The queen had stopped at a cliff and was trapped on a narrow ledge. She was about to push a huge boulder onto the doors when a bolt lightning struck the ledge. With a horrible scream, she fell on the jagged rocks below. The wicked queen was gone forever. When the dwarfs finally arrived home, they found Snow White asleep on the floor. Nothing they did could wake her up from her sleep. With tears in their eyes, they gently laid Snow White on a bed. The next day, the dwarfs built a golden casket for Snow White. It was covered with glasses so that they could always see her. Then they carried the casket to a peaceful glen in the deepest of the forest, where the tall pine trees carpeted the ground with their fragrant needles. For many days the dwarfs stayed by Snow White's side, hoping she would wake up. But Snow White slept on and on. Meanwhile, the lonely prince had been searching for Snow White far and wide. One day he heard of a beautiful maiden who slept in a golden casket deep in the forest, surrounded by 7 little men. Finally, he came upon Snow White. He lifted the heavy glass lid. "My beautiful Snow White, at the last I've found you," he whispered. Then he kissed the sleeping princess. Snow White opened her eyes. The spell was broken. The prince gathered Snow White in his arms and lifted her onto his horse. This time Snow White was not afraid of her handsome prince. "Goodbye," she called out to the dwarves. "You've been good, kind friends. I will never forget you." Snow White kept her promise. She included the dwarves in all the festivals at the castle, where she and her prince lived happily ever after. The end. Alright, tell me guys how you like that story. This is actually one of my favorite books, so give me some advice. Let me know if you have any questions or if there's any other books you guys would like me to read. I'm going to start with The Lion King, and that will be our last story for this video. The Lion King. So many turns of pages. Alright. The animals came from far and near across the dusty African plain. They came on paddling paws and pounding hooves and flapping wings. Each beast, from the tiniest to the largest elephant, made its way to Pride Rock, for that was the home of the Lion King, and this was a special day in the Pride Lands. Today, Simba, the firstborn cub of King Mufasa and Queen Sabria, would join the great circle of life. It's the circle of life. The animals took their places and bowed to King Mufasa. The Mufaki and the wise baboon stood on the edge of Pride Rock and held up the little cub for all to see. A great cry rose from all the animals. The elephants trumpeted, the zebras whined, and the birds sang for joy at the sight of Simba, the future Lion King. But one animal did not join in the joyous ceremony. Scar, the king's jealous brother, stayed in his den. Later, Scar just laughed when the king's advisor, Zazu, the hornbill, criticized him. Then the evil lion popped the bird in the mouth. Scar would have eaten Zozo if Mufasa hadn't come along just in time. Zazu wiped his feathers off and scolded, as the king's brother, who could have been first in line of Simba's ceremony. Scar's green eyes gleamed. "I was first in line till a little hairball was born. That hairball is my son, and your future king," Mufasa growled. Scar slinked away. "Don't turn your back on me," Mufasa warned. Scar looked back over his shoulders, his eyes narrow. "Perhaps you shouldn't turn your back on me." Simba grew quickly. One morning, Mufasa took his son to the top of Pride Rock and told him, "The circle of life never stops turning. One day, the sun will set on my time as ruler and rise with you as king. Then everything the light touches will be yours." "What about the shadowy place?" Simba asked. Mufasa declared, "You must never go there." Stunning Zazu swooped down and squawked, "Hyenas in the Pride Lands!" Mufasa frowned. "Zazu, take Simba home." "Oh, Dad, can't I come?" Simba whined. Mufasa shook his mighty mane. Fighting savage hyenas was no job for a cub. Later, Simba asked his Uncle Scar about the shady place. An evil plan formed in Scar's mind. Only the bravest lions go to the elephant graveyard. Scar told him. He knew the foolish cub would go there just to prove his bravery. Scar was right. Simba couldn't wait to go to the elephant graveyard with his best friend Nyla. But how could they go with Zazu watching every move they made? "We've got to ditch the dodo," Simba whispered. Nyla giggled and agreed. Soon the two friends found a way to escape their feathered babysitter. Before long, the young lions had reached a dark, mysterious place beyond the borders of the Pride lands. Giant bones poked out the ground. "It's kind of scary," Nala whispered. "Let's check it out," Simba said, a laughing face of danger. "Ha, ha, ha." "Hee, hee, hee," crackled three mean hyenas, Shanzai, Banzai, and Ed. "Look, boys, a king fit for a meal." The cubs ran, but soon found themselves cornered. Simba stepped bravely in front of Nala and tried to roar. "Roar! Roar! Roar!" I'm sorry, guys. A lot of these names are hard to pronounce. But if you were to say the names, I'd know exactly who you're talking about. So, the hyenas laughed and jeered. Simba opened his mouth to try again. This time, the elephant bones rattled with a thunderous roar. The hyenas were confused, and so was Simba, until Mufasa sprang into view. The mighty lion chased away the hyenas. Zazus had been seen the cubs in trouble and flown for help. Mufasa told Zazus to take Nala home. Then he scolded Simba for disobeying him. "Aw, Dad, I was just trying to be brave like you," Simba explained. Mufasa sighed. "Being brave doesn't mean you go looking for trouble, Simba. A good king is wise as well as brave." Simba suddenly felt very small. "We'll always be together, right, Dad?" Mufasa looked up at the starry sky and said, "The great kings of the past looked down on us from those stars. So whenever you feel alone, just remember those kings will always, always be there to guide you. And so will I." Later, Scar met the hungry hyenas. "I practically gave you those cubs," he complained. They weren't exactly alone. But Scar had another plan that would allow him to be king. "Stick with me and you'll never go hungry again, I promise." The hyenas danced and cheered. The next morning, Scar took Simba to the bottom of the rocky canyon. "Now wait here," he ordered. "Your father has a big surprise for you." "Will I like the surprise?" Simba asked. Scar smiled slyly. "Oh, it's to die for," he said as he walked away. Then he gave a signal to the hyenas waiting on the canyon ridge. The hyenas knew what to do. They chased a herd of wild beasts down the canyon. Simba felt the earth shake. He heard the clattering of thousands of hooves. Then he saw the wild beasts heading straight for him. Simba managed to climb a dead tree and clutched to the branch. "Help!" he shouted. Help was on its way, for Scar had found his brother. "Mufasa, Simba's trapped in a stampede," Scar cried. "That sneaky, sneaky Scar. Shame on him." Just as Scar had planned, Mufasa rushed to Simba's rescue. He lifted his son to safety, but then fell under the rushing tide of hooves. "Dad!" Simba shouted. He couldn't see anything through the huge dust cloud. Mufasa tried to pull himself up the steep rocks. From above, Scar watched his brother struggle. "Help me! Brother, help me!" Mufasa pleaded. Scar reached for Mufasa's paws. He pulled his brother's hand. He pulled his brother close and whispered, "Long live the king." Then Scar let go and watched Mufasa tumble down to a steep slope. When the stampede was over, Simba found his father laying lifeless in the dust. "No!" Simba wailed. Scar came to the sobbing cub's side. "What have you done?" he accused. "There are wild beasts everywhere. He tried to save me." "It was an accident," Simba said in a rush. I didn't mean..." "Of course not. But if you weren't for you, he'd still be alive." "What will your mother think?" Scar demanded. Simba looked stricken. "What should I say?" "Run away," Scar advised. "Run away and never come back?" Scar watched Simba run. Then he sent the hyenas after him. The hyenas chased Simba to the border of the Pride Lands. The cub dived into the thickest of the thorns of the edge of the great desert. The hyenas looked at the sharp thorns, then at the desert. "The cub won't last a day out there," the hyena declared. Simba ran until he could not run no more. The thirsty cub collapsed on the sand. Vultures circled him hungrily. But Timon, the meerkat, and his fat friend Pumbaa, the warhog, chased away the vultures. Simba woke up in their jungle home. Timon and Pumbaa means no worries for the rest of your days. It's a problem-free philosophy, Hakuna Matata. Yeah. Sorry, guys. "Where are you from?" Timon asked. Simba sighed. "It doesn't matter, I can't go back." "What did you do, kid?" Pumbaa wondered. "Something terrible," Simba replied. Timon struggled. "Who cares? You gotta put that past behind you." "Hakuna Matata." "What?" Simba asked. "Hakuna Matata," Timon repeated. "It means no worries. That's the motto we live by. And here's what we live on." Timon showed Simba a wiggly insect. Simba watched Pumbaa get a grub. "Slimy but satisfying," the warhog said with a burp. Simba frowned, but he ate the big grub. Then the cub smiled and said, "Hakuna Matata." In the months that followed, Simba ate many, many grubs and grew into a full-sized lion. Most of the time he was happy with his friends, Timon and Pumbaa. Yet he missed his mother and often thought of his father. One night, as they gazed up the stars, Simba remembered what his father had told him. He wondered if the great kings of the past really were looking down from the stars. Simba felt very alone. The next day, Simba heard Timon scream. The young lion raced to the rescue. A hungry lioness was about to pounce on Pumbaa, who was stuck under a log. Timon bravely was trying to protect him. Simba gave a mighty roar, leaped to the lioness. But just as they began to fight, Simba recognized his old friend. "Nala?" he gasped in disbelief. The lioness looked deep into the eyes of the handsome young lion and whispered, "Simba, Scar told us you were dead." Nala told Simba how terrible things were now that King Scar and his hyenas ruled the Pride Lands. There was no food or water, and many of the animals had fled. "But you can come back and become king. Then everything will be right again," Nala said. But what might Rafiki, the bamboo, come to Simba and promise to bring him to his father? When Simba looked up at the skies, he heard a familiar voice. "Simba," his father asked, "have you forgotten me?" Simba gasped. "No, how could I?" You have forgotten who you are, and so have forgotten me. The ghostly voice continued. Look inside yourself, Simba. You are more than what you have become. You must take your place in the circle of life. Simba knew his father was right. His friends returned him to the Pride Lands. Back at Pride Rock, King Scar was angry with Sabari for not finding food. Suddenly, Scar heard a great roar. He couldn't believe his eyes. Mufasa? It can't be. You're dead. But Sabari recognized her son. Simba, she said softly. I come to take my place as king, Simba roared. But Scar could not back down so easily. Simba leaped at Scar, but the villain slipped away. Instead, the hyenas rushed at Simba. Pride Rock echoed with their hideous laughter as the hyenas forced Simba to the edge of a cliff. Scar walked up to the exhausted young lion. Your daddy isn't here to save you this time. Scar taunted. Then he pushed Simba off the cliff. Simba's claws scrambled for a hold on the steep slope. This looks familiar, Scar sneered. Oh, yes, I remember. It's just the way your father looked before I killed him. At last, Simba knew the truth. With a mighty roar, he leaped at Scar. Meanwhile, Timon, Pumbaa, and the lioness had chased the hyenas off Pride Rock. When Simba sent Scar flying over the cliff, the villain landed in a mob of hungry hyenas. Hee hee hee, they crackled cruelty. Finally, they had a meal fit for a king, or a king fit for a meal. Simba thanked his friends, then he walked to the top of Pride Rock. His roar echoed through the Pride Lands. The rightful king had taken his throne. The plains were soon lush and green again. The animals returned, and the hunting was good once more. Simba knew that a king must have a queen, so, of course, he chose the beautiful Nala. Before long, the animals again came from far and near across the dusty African plain. This time, they came to greet the firstborn cub of King Simba and Queen Nala. Wise old Rafiki stood at the edge of Pride Rock and held up the cub for all to see. The elephants triumphed. The zebras whined for joy as the future Lion King joined the circle of life. The end. So thank you guys for watching my video. I know I have a lot of places that I stuttered in. I'm going to work on that, and I hope I can continue to read you guys stories. And if you think I should do an adult book reading, let me know. Maybe we can do a book club every day or once a week. Yeah, let me know. Don't forget to like and subscribe.